Okay, let me go ahead and get started. So, good morning, everyone. We have with us today at the BBC Talk number 4. This is Alejandra Cisneros, and I'm very proud to have Alejandra today here as our guest speaker. And our mutual history with Alejandra begins almost about 8 years ago when I first met her at an Airbnb meetup that I conducted in Ubud. And before that time, I had already known Alejandra as an architect and a fabulous Airbnb host. And I remember we were speaking about her listing in the Airbnb office, and I was looking really forward to be her guest. So this is an incredible opportunity. I believe Alejandra has actually created a pioneering style in Bali architecture, and I think she was one of the first people to go really redefine what kind of like a modern and a new approach to a sustainable Balinese home should look like. And it's not just something she does for work, but she also lives in these beautiful homes too as well. Okay, Mrs. Alejandra, welcome. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. This is really wonderful. I'm so excited. We all finally have time to chat.
Exactly.
COVID.
Exactly. It's really a coincidence because I was looking at Ubud for a new property, and I happened to stumble upon you on Penistana, and it's pretty fortuitous how we came about to run into each other again.
Yeah, I think they call that synchronicity.
That's very good. That's very good.
Yeah, I don't think you could really deny there were other forces at work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So
I love that.
the next thing I'd like to go into is a little bit about the principle behind why we're having these meetings. And so we want, as part of our vision, to inspire delight. And Alejandra is here to help us build a trusted community so that property owners can actually discover amazing talent. And we're very selective, so we only invite trusted industry professionals that have a proven track record and established businesses in the region. And I, as a moderator, will ask questions that will represent, as best I can, questions the owner might want to ask an architect in this case. And I believe Alejandra definitely fits the bill. She's been practicing, I believe, for at least 12 years here in Bali. Is that correct?
Yeah, no more. I've been here about 17 years already.
Oh, wow. Okay, 17 years. All right. That's slightly longer than even me. So, and we both happen to be Cal grads, actually, from the University of California, Berkeley. So that was a fairly exciting rediscovery as well. Okay, just to go over the format of this discussion, we'll briefly introduce myself and our company. I'll introduce our community guest, and then we'll have a discussion. We'll take a look at Alejandra's portfolio and her amazing collection of houses and her services, and then we'll end with some closing statements. Okay, and a little bit about myself. I'm Jing. I'm the regular host on this channel, and I'm CEO of Bukit Vista. I'm co-founder. I studied in 2002 at UC Berkeley with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. Previously, I worked at Airbnb, and before that at Aman, which is an Indonesian luxury resort with global locations throughout the world. And my fun fact is I once upon a time danced with Hrithik Roshan and Aishwarya Rai in a Bollywood movie. So
No way.
I did. I was an extra.
Fabulous.
I was an extra in Brazil when I was traveling through Latin America, and I'd actually lost my wallet, and so then I was like looking for a way to make some money while waiting for my new bank card to arrive from California. So I stumbled upon a movie set, and I started talking with the production people by accident, and they just said, "You want to dance? You want to just we need some extras." I was like, "That's fabulous!" So I got kind of hired on the spot, and I didn't know what it was at the first time. I was like, "Oh." They kept on saying it was Doom, and from my engineering mind, Doom was a video game, and I thought that this video game had been turned into a movie, but it was actually an Indian Bollywood movie, so it was very surprising. But
I love that.
yeah, it was also in Latin America, and we can go into that part later where Alejandra originates, has had part of your life history in. So our mission here at Bukit Vista is to inspire delight through hospitality innovations that positively transform our guests, partners, and employees. And this is part of our part of the realization and manifestation of this vision. So without further ado, these are some of our architecture, represent a collection of some of our homes. So we represent homes in Bingin, in Balangan, and Jimbaran, and Uluwatu, all throughout different parts of not just Bali, but the rest of Indonesia. And this is primarily why we're interested also in architecture. Now, I'm going to turn the floor over to Alejandra. And Alejandra, please introduce yourself and tell us like a little bit about your background.
Okay. So I fell in love with, I ended up coming to Bali, taking a sabbatical because architects in the United States get tired. So I thought to myself, I'm going to sell the house and I'm going on sabbatical to Asia and I'm just going to take a little break, from my busy life. And of course, I fell in love with Bali like so many others do. And I thought I think I could really live here. So next thing I went back, I sold everything, and then I came to Bali. And at first, I thought, wow, can I just start building? And the answer is not responsibly. So I actually spent a number of years doing my own sort of research and development. And while I was doing the research and development, a bit like you're always looking for other ways to like support yourself. I decided to design clothing, while I kind of moved forward in the design aspect of the world. So I designed some sweaters and they did very well. And then I was sending shipments. I had clients from Southern California. And so they were coming here to Bali and buying everything for their remodels. And one of my, dear clients, they came and I think they saved about $800,000 on their 6-bedroom, 6-bath house because, absolutely everything got sourced from Bali. 2 containers full of stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Which was fabulous. And I kind of thought, well, that's going to be the way I'm going to keep moving, And in my mind, I had this little idea. I thought, as long as you have something that you can sell to the U.S., to Americans, you're going to be fine because Americans never stop buying. We know that. Right?
Yeah, very, very.
I was like, just keep tweaking things, and as long as you've got a product for them. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really thinking about living a life here and being able to support myself in Bali. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, 2008 rolled around.
Oh, snap. Okay.
It was actually right around this time, it was 2008. And I started to get one phone call and then another from clients that were ready. They had their tickets bought. And they said, sorry, Alejandra, we've canceled everything. Our finances, everything is tanked for us. We have no more investments. We can't do anything. Right. So anyway, I was a little bit unemployed from having all of these wonderful clients in California wanting to, do remodels. But all of a sudden I had 0. Wow. And I thought to myself, wow. And I didn't quite have clients. Nobody knew me. Okay. So you can't just, it happens everywhere in the world with architects. People, they don't want to hire you until you are proven, until you've done something. So, but guess what? I didn't have any money all of a sudden, to finish my own project. So, for a little while, I was like, wow, well, okay, we're going to try out what it is to live, Bali style, which is basically rice.
Right.
So anyway, yeah. That went on, for more than a year, that there was no income and it didn't really look like the clients were coming back. So, it's a little bit like what we're experiencing now.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I had kind of started my own house, but I had abandoned it. And my manager, she said to me, Ale, it's not good for Balinese spirit. She meant, to leave a house open, the black magic can come into the house, basically.
Okay.
They are not happy about the fact that your house is not complete. This is like black spirit time.
Right.
Move in. So anyway, believe it or not, I actually got a loan. She says, our head builder in Palestine, and he's willing, to lend you the money, and materials and his workers, just so that you will please finish your house.
My goodness. Wow. I didn't know. Okay.
That's how that happened.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Okay. And
yeah. So then I built my first house, which is the house we're back in right now.
Uh-huh.
And so that's how it all started,
Beautiful. Okay. That's an amazing journey. And I also noticed that you had written a few books as well. And I was oblivious to that was your book because I had actually seen it on inspections to villas on multiple shelves and coffee tables all over Bali. But I've seen that you had written. That was the cover of our talk, actually. And at what point did you feel like it was the right time to create your own book for your work?
My own book? How did that happen?
Yeah.
So again, under the radar girl. I was just working away.
Okay.
But I have architects in my family, and I had never, my work had never really been seen as real architecture for my family members. They were all kind of waiting for me to do the modernist gem. But what the husband of my cousin, they came on a vacation to Bali. And it took me about 5 days to actually give him a tour of my houses. Jim, my partner, was like, Ali, when are you going to show Robert your houses? I was like, whoa, I promised tomorrow. So anyway, I gave him a tour, and he said, I think there might be a book here. And I thought, a book? It was interesting. It was like, a book of what? I was like, what would it be? Because, when you're just working, you don't really take the time. But I thought, okay. So it forced me to kind of reflect that I do have a body of work and that I have been working, that I do have these things called core values, that
very important.
Such interesting talk. I loved that. About how Airbnb came to that, and I thought to myself, I really do have that and have always had that, and so that house, that year was a year a little bit of exploration and tightening, but it became clear that I really did have kind of a real DNA to the houses, and so next thing I know, I featured 12 of them in a book.
Wow, really cool. Let's go more into that then. So the next thing we're going to do is this is a quote actually from your book. The work of Alejandra makes significant departure from the Bali-style villa design popularized in the last 2 decades and is a refreshing antidote to the anodyne villas invading Bali's centuries-old rice terraces. This book delves into the life, philosophies, and design process of this truly original architectural designer in her adopted tropical island home. What would you say encompasses your architectural philosophy?
So I think a friend of mine said, well, it's a combination of things. A friend of mine said, Alejandra, you really are able to bring out the best in the Balinese craftsmen and in Bali. And I think that's really what I've done. I mean, I suppose I've been doing that my whole life. I used to do that. I used to do remodels in California, and I used to just try and, take something very ugly and transform it, something beautiful. That was my specialty in a way. And here, that those couple of years I did not build at all. Well, and partially because I didn't really feel like I was ready, but secondly, I didn't have the money. So I was able to really observe, there are some forces at work, especially in Ubud, that are intense. The weather here, the sun, these are all, and at Berkeley, interestingly enough, the emphasis was called, we were following somebody called Christopher Alexander. It was the pattern language.
Okay.
And it was all about kind of reducing, kind of taking a look at the small incremental kind of emotional moments that make up a house for a person, the experience, right? Like the entry, what it is to enter into a house. So I had all of that. And so the question was really, how do we celebrate foods, in our house in Bali? Mm-hmm. How do you, it's just the simple things that you do, right? When you live in a house, okay? Like you're sharing food, you're cooking, you're chatting, you're bathing, you're sleeping, mm-hmm. Okay? And you're lounging. But guess what? When you're doing that in Bali, it becomes extraordinary.
You're right.
And it really is not just sleeping. It's sleeping in Bali. You have sounds of animals at night. You have these amazing craftspeople that do these extraordinary hand-woven roofs. Mm-hmm. The whole roof is made by hand. Where do you have that?
Nowhere else. Yeah, it's
and on top of it, we don't have any crime yet. Okay, so because I was raised partially in Latin America, mm-hmm. When I would go back to Argentina, my aunties, they would all be like, "How can you do this? The bathroom is open." Students jumping in. We couldn't do this in a million years.
Right.
Right? That's exactly why I did it. So a lot of the reason, really, they're very simple. A lot of the reason, my design reasons, they all come from solving a problem or just taking advantage of the fact that we can,
That's right.
It's as simple as that.
I actually celebrate that. So many architects, I think they design according not to like a lifestyle, but according to like some sort of rigid philosophy, right? And they forget that the environment that they're in, especially in an environment like Bali, I think it really enhances each of those moments that like sleeping, eating, drinking, lounging. They really enhance all those moments to the next degree. And I think when I've been your guest, you've definitely put that in. I remember everything we did in your property was really just enjoyable. I remember just cooking there, showering there. It really felt like it was just an experience by itself, because as you're cooking, normally you're looking at this wall or not, whatever cupboard. But I remember just kind of feeling like, wow, this is really interesting. You're like cooking in a garden. You're cooking in like this jungle. And it totally brought out a different experience to it than normally I would imagine. And let's go into the next topic, actually. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your work and how it applies to your clients, to a property owner, in terms of what sort of value have you seen around it? What type of relationships do you like to have with your clients, and what is the legacy of the property in terms of maybe many dimensions, in terms of its sustainability, in terms of its impact upon the local population, in terms of a statement to the owner's own beliefs. I'm very curious about how you see this as your personal impact through your work.
Well, that's a great question. Well, we have clients from all over the world, and most of the people, as you know, who end up choosing Bali is people who've they've decided this is the very best spot in the world. So when they move here, they don't go anywhere else. It's not like, I'm just going to be here, for a year or two. They are in love with Bali. They appreciate it. And people who come to work with me One of my first clients, he actually moved into my house. He fell in love with it, and he said, "I want to live here with my young family." And I was like, "Well, does that mean I have to move out?" Like, I did. I was so flattered. I was like, "Wow, this works for a family too."
Mhm.
He moved in after the year I built for him.
Wow.
And basically, I think everybody feels moved by these houses. I have my clients who live next door. They're all friends of mine still, which is kind of extraordinary in itself. But each of them, they all, it's not like a one size fits all. Like,
Of course.
every family, every person is very different. And for that person, I build the house that works for them. Like my neighbors next door, they teach yoga. They're yoga philosophers, and they go around the world, and they're all over the world. And when they come back to Bali, they just are able to really relax in their house and cook. And that house is so perfect for them to be able to have the nurturing that they need after nurturing so many other people when they're on the road, right? So that for them, they don't have kids, so it's kind of a meditative experience. But I have families, and they need a house that's very flexible for the kids and for grandparents showing up, and that happens as well. And mostly many of the houses, the living room is actually open. But if we need to close it later on, that could also happen. There's no kind of you must live in an open house, or you absolutely cannot have air conditioning. I don't like that. I'm not like a Nazi about the way I want everybody. I want people. My goal in many ways is to feel like I could have a granny from Korea or from Buenos Aires come and stay in my house,
Yep.
and love it.
Mhm.
Or like a hipster from Malibu, everybody, but should feel comfortable. Well, and they do.
And they
Turns
do.
out they
Because
do. Turns out
I've
they
seen
do.
your reviews on Airbnb, and it's happened a lot. I think you have had grannies from South Korea and hipsters from Malibu. So, that's actually beautiful. So, if I can summarize, your philosophy is around is would you say it's personalization, so that your it seems like so much of what you do, you're considering the user, you're considering like how this person is going to be actually experiencing the the sort of like the environment, but through the lens of your property. And that actually is very interesting to me, because it sort of relates almost to like what Nadia is doing with UI UX work, and really thinking about like what is it that now we have all these digital products right on our phones, and we spend a lot of time thinking about it's almost like being an architect for a digital product. You're thinking about like, what is this person going to experience while they are browsing on the subway? What's this person going to experience at the next level? So it's an intense form of personalization. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are. Are you talking to Nadia right now?
Oh no, I was just kind of
Okay.
including Nadia in the
So
conversation. Yeah.
right now, actually, I mean, it looks like I planned it, but right now, my view is of Bapak and Ibu, the owners of my land. They're preparing the rice. You can probably hear it in the background. They're about to plant rice again, because that's the landscape. So, and it almost sounds almost like, oh my God, but I've been doing this for 30 years. It's sort of like, my thinking is, why would I have any other landscaping when the rice is so beautiful, and when you have a changing landscape every 3 months, every month actually. Yes, you have water, you have ducks, you have rice, then you have the harvest of the rice.
That's right.
So that was my thinking there. It's all kind of, also, I never, here's the other key to me. I've never had a bunch of money to do anything in my life. Never. No, never. And it's wonderful because it means, you've got to like turn it around, turn it upside down. How can, we come up with something that works without spending a fortune?
Understood. That's very key to I think the success of innovation, having that scrappiness, being able to make the most of your resources.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go over to the next topic, which is, and this is where we can explore your portfolio and what projects do you really feel demonstrate your ability and talent? Which projects do you feel like are the centerpiece? I have here open on my screen. We have the tiny house, we have Flora Natural Villas, and we have your studio. Is there any particular project that you would like to talk about first?
Well, why don't we talk about Bareng Bareng, the one that you have the first photo of, the one before that. This one was the Flora Natural Villas, and then we'll go to the tiny house after that.
Okay, it's Flora Natural Villas. Okay.
So this was our last house that we just did. Honestly, I have to say, with COVID, we're living in the first house that I designed, Jim and I. We moved back in here. Usually they're all rented, so we don't, I was like, do we have a place? Where are we going to be living? But we're in Posada Flora right now. We've moved in here again. And the crazy thing is, and I'm so happy about this, the houses, they work, they all work.
Absolutely.
So, Posada Flora, it's the two of us, we get a little bit cranky sometimes, but that little day bed out there is, there's just enough places that you can escape to.
Perfect.
And so, the kitchen, the houses, they're natural. I call them natural villas, which I think it's appropriate. They're natural, but they are extremely practical, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're very modern. The kitchen is like amazing to cook in, because it's just like, it's cement, it's just everything you want in a kitchen.
Definitely.
There you can see it. It's kind of the model that we use in all of the kitchens. So, yeah, I would say that every house just solves a new problem. So that the one that you were looking at, the latest house, I love that house too, just because it's the latest baby.
Uh-huh.
The
Bareng Bareng. Okay.
Bareng Bareng. So Bareng Bareng is it's the first house. It's always fun to like have something new that you resolve. So that's the first house that we did that actually is completely connected to the swimming pool, which is interesting because mainly, we just been making the house a little bit more natural. But I love this, and it's this was a 3-bedroom house, 2 baths. So it's pretty big for us, and it works really, really well for a family. And they live in Hawaii. They're Americans, and they have 2 kids, 2 boys that are kind of preteen, and their grandmother. So the house it fits everyone. The boys are, that's their room.
Got it.
Their bunk bed. You remember how your daughter loved the bunk bed?
Yes, my daughter wanted to stay at an Airbnb with a bunk bed rather than go to Disneyland. So the bunk bed is very magical qualities. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Okay.
So this house has AC in the bedrooms. I don't have any problem with that. It's like, okay, fine, but we're going to put AC in, but we're also going to make sure that we have really good fans and that all of the bedrooms have, operable windows. So you have the option, you don't have to get rid of it, but you may not be using the AC very much.
Perfect. That's a beautiful one.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I see you have a few more. You have also Jasmine and Marguerite.
So Marguerite, sometimes when we do a little bit of everything. So Marguerite is just a remodeled house.
Okay.
It's one of those classic Bali bungalows, that we opened up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and we put a new roof on it. They're like, what's wrong with the tile roof? I'm like, I mean, Penistada, they have to carry everything on their head.
Right.
So, if you want to tell somebody they're going to take the roof off, you better have some really strong ideas about that. But anyway, so it's also just making that tiny house, the existing house, just more beautiful.
I'm shocked at this because normal Balinese homes are rather dark. They don't really let that much light or outside in. And this is completely the opposite. You've transformed it.
Yeah, that absolutely, Jing. That is one of my number one pet peeves. I mean, I know, and every time, I have told everyone in Pakistan, you can consult me for free, but the Balinese, in general, they're still kind of like, I don't know if it could be that open alley, but then they come to my houses and they're like, oh, I kind of like this. This is kind of me, They like the idea of being able to sit and relax, which the Balinese do really, really well. You know that. They like singing.
Ding.
They're like, please. I'm like, this is what happens when you don't close everything up.
I hear you on that one. There is definitely an approach towards life that is appreciates the slowness. And you have one more here. It's Jasmine.
Oh, Jasmine. Jasmine was, I think, where you stayed.
I think so. It looks very familiar.
Yeah, and that's just across so right here.
Yes, it is. I remember.
We have 3 houses and a shared pool.
Mm-hmm.
And again, later on, we may end up putting in individual pools in each house. We might shift it up a little bit. But for now, it has worked very well that way. With COVID, people might travel differently.
Yeah.
That's fine. We can also do that.
Wow. This brings me back. I remember I only had, I think, 2 nights, but they were just amazing. I really felt sad about leaving. It's like your story about the yoga philosophers. When I stayed here, I felt really. Look where I'm staying right now. Right, this is like a warehouse. It's sort of a startup area, but I really feel very serene and centered. I would have to say, when I'm in your home, because there's this beauty at every moment. Like from the moment you wake up, you look out, it's this beautiful rice paddy. When you go to cook, you're looking out at this really well presented manicured garden. It's just you're always feeling like you're soaking in the reason why you're in Bali, right?
Yeah.
And that I thought was a beautiful thing. And we also have your tiny house project and your studio sites. Would you like to maybe bring us through one or the other at the moment?
This one, the studio, yeah. So we have. You want to talk about the studios?
Sure.
Okay. So the studios was a piece of land, kind of urban for Penistan. It was that kind of. We have one center road where people go up and down, and my manager, she had her husband's family, had a piece of land there. And so I thought, well, if we're going to develop anything, we may as well develop, her land, because then the money goes back to them. I mean, why not? So it's always a little bit like that. Like this piece of property where I am was also other people that worked for me. And I thought, I'm going to just give you the money. I'm not going to look for like a piece of property or anything. Because part of what I love in Bali is the fact that once you're part of a village, even as a foreigner, you know, you are protected. People never forget you.
That's right.
It's really so unusual in the world. We really need to. I love it, and I think it's a very, very important way of living on the planet. It's a good lesson for people in the world. So basically, that piece of land, we ended up building something that would maybe be a retreat center. We were thinking about that, but the idea was just to build something where people could come that would be a little bit lower price, and they could, easily, once they arrive, they could easily, get to a place to eat, kind of get themselves oriented, like 1 minute flat, which with Airbnb is so important,
That's right. That's right.
So disorienting to arrive somewhere and not know where you are,
That's it. I remember, actually, that's where I stumbled upon you, actually, right across from the studio and Flora, I believe, as well. I see that you have some projects in your portfolio here that maybe you'd like to tell us more about. There's one called Joglo Blue. There's another one, I guess, the Flora Studios. Is there any in particular other projects that you want? Eli Lima-san, is there anything that you'd like to bring us through and show us more in depth?
Oh, and more in depth. Okay. So I think, why don't we just do, we could do Barang Barang.
Right, okay.
That's the last one that we did.
Okay. Okay, Barang Barang. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, angles. Okay, great.
So basically, this piece of land, my clients were here visiting. It was the last stop on a round the world trip, and we've gotten to know them over the years, and we love them. And I was like, well, maybe you should invest, and that was like maybe a small place that you could just remodel, and then it wouldn't be that much of an investment. But turns out that sometimes a small investment like that could already be 100,000,
Okay.
So for like 140 or 50, they would have, I was like, oh, wow. There's somebody brought up the possibility of leasing this piece of land. And then Jim and I could lease half of it, so it wouldn't be, it was ended up being like 4 ARA for them.
Uh-huh.
This is this very small piece of land, actually. Wow. And anyway, once I said, why don't we do this? Because then you guys could have it for 30 years. You've got kids. That's important. Your investment, it's really going to be, your return is going to be much better on this.
Of course.
And basically for the effort, we may as well just go for it. So anyway, they were like, okay. And then a week later, they left. They went back to the States. Well, they were not here for any of this, It was all WhatsApp. And they were really wonderful clients. I mean, they got because the thing about working with us, and I see that more and more and more, because I have had the experience where that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
If the clients do not trust us, forget about it.
Yep.
Someplace else.
That's a topic I'm going to come back to very shortly, actually. But in the meantime, the other day we were talking about your tiny house project, and perhaps we can go into that one.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Tiny house. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do tiny house.
Okay, so this is the tiny house.
Okay, so this is very different, actually. This is tiny house. I had. So I've been, you look at magazines, tiny houses. I am not, early on, I was not a tiny house fan because for me, a lot of the tiny houses, they look like Hansel and Gretel, cute things. I'm tall, I don't have it. I didn't like it, the loft bed, it just felt going up a ladder. I'm not going to do that. There's just like so many things that bugged me. Okay. About a tiny house, and dark, and it's just not comfortable, right? Not my kind of tiny house. Sure. So then muji, the Japanese clothing and many other things. I like them. So I was like, oh, Muji had done a tiny house. I was like, I gotta see what they're doing. Right, because I thought, well, they'll come up with something simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they're tiny. I was like, it's okay, but not. I think maybe we could improve on that. Maybe,
Okay.
I was like, okay, why don't we try a tiny house? We happened to have a small 0.75 ara that was available. It had been the place where the motorbikes had been parked.
Wow.
That's what it was. Okay. And so it's like, but it's not on this hilly. So there's like this very sloped 0.75 ara with a little bit of we have rice paddy view. That's like a river view. But the setting is kind of urban. And I like that because to me, a tiny house, I mean, it could be in the country, but it's also like perfect for infill, in Berkeley or, places in the US where
there you go.
Housing is too expensive or anywhere really, Seminyak where, land is too expensive. It's just like stick in a tiny house. So, but basically the couple of things that I was thinking about here were, number one, I wanted to make sure, it's a few small things, but make an enormous difference. Mm-hmm. For me, one, I wanted to be able to have a bed that was a comfortable staircase walking up to the bed.
Definitely.
It was like, and so, the decision of how wide does that have to be? How big could the steps actually be?
Right.
On a tiny house, the steps can be pretty big, because you're holding on. But the important thing is that the steps be all the same. And they actually be steps, not a ladder.
Got it. Okay.
So that happened. That was one of the things. The other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that this space I had a feeling that we could make a space under the bed that would be very usable.
Okay.
And, because we work in inches in the US.
Yes, we do.
Very different from meters. Like we're very attuned to a couple of inches in a head height, up or down, can really make a big difference. So anyway, this is designed exactly so that when you go under it, even Jim, who is 6'3", 6'4", he feels comfortable in that space.
Perfect.
And
okay.
Some of it is we put windows in it, right?
Yep, I can see those.
Right, so that makes a big difference. If we hadn't put a window in, it would feel like more claustrophobic, more like a closet. But
wow, okay, I never thought about that as a design consideration. This is perfect, and this is very exciting. Thank you, Alejandra, for bringing us through your portfolio. Just like I mentioned earlier, we were going to talk about clients, and in your opinion, who is the right type of client for you? Like, what clients do you enjoy working with the most?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We're getting we've always had a lot of great clients. Every once in a while, the clients that are not great are people who want to micromanage, because actually moving to Bali, period, is kind of an exercise in letting go. Things if you push, everybody kind of like blocks you.
Right.
So the same thing happens. So our clients, money. We really do have all sorts of levels of clients. We have people who are, have quite generous budget. Have other people who are on a pretty tight budget. We can still be flexible to work with them. But I'm liking, a lot of my clients are are abroad, so we just meet a couple of times with them.
I see.
That works. I don't like. I've been watching some of these. Sometimes you watch these programs on TV where
Yes.
okay, so the designer met like 15 minutes with you. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you half an hour. We'll double that. No, because the thing is, I have had clients who wanted to be very, very involved in the whole process. Really, it's not the ideal for me because we have to like hold their hand too much.
I understand. So
okay. Anyway.
So kind of like to wrap it up, a client that I heard earlier that they need to trust. They need to trust like what you're doing. They need to kind of understand your philosophy and give you the reins. And from all types of budgets is okay. And mostly to not micromanage, but just kind of like let the architect be the architect, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Let's go to the next question. This question is always a little bit. I've noticed a lot of architects have a harder time answering this question, but I think you might actually have an answer. Is there a simple way that we can tell a potential client what your fees are? Like, is there a percentage or is there a certain thing? Over to Alejandra for the best explanation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, because I just have been. I don't. This is interesting because I don't really talk to a lot of people, so I just have kind of made up the way I do things on my own.
I see.
And it was a little bit the way I used to work in the States as well. I used to charge a percentage on top of construction costs, and I find that to be just the simplest. So I charge a percentage of 35%.
Okay.
Top of construction, and that because there's so much hands-on from my I have to really be there every day, and a million decisions are happening.
Definitely.
So it's just the way that I like to do it.
Okay.
It just keeps the services tied to how big the project is.
Right. Okay, that's understandable. Thank you for that. So 35%, but you get Alejandra on site all the time, and she's going to be
exactly
hand building the place just like the roof, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Last topic is really just for yourself, Alejandra. Do you have any last thoughts or any final words that you want to leave a potential client with? Like, what represents you?
Well, I mean, all of us are so privileged to be able to live here on the island of Bali, and I do think we're gonna have people are gonna keep coming.
Yes.
And I believe there's gonna be more people moving here.
We hope so too.
Yeah, I think people will be coming for a longer period, and I do think more people will move here. There's gonna be a kind of a new wave of people, and I think anybody who does move here, the most important thing is to be very respectful of the land, of the Balinese culture, and actually, if you're respectful of the Balinese culture, you end up being respectful of the land as well.
It's true.
Because the Balinese are they're very, very, I learned so much. They're very tied. If you just watch the way they do things, the way that the brothers that I work with, all from Bali, it's an all Balinese worker team. There's something very special about their relationship to the land. And I think that anybody, wanting to come on vacation or wanting in these days, where we have to make important decisions about who do we want to be moving forward. Take what the Balinese have a lot of lessons for us.
I believe so.
Right?
Yeah. I believe you mentioned that in the beginning of your book. It's called Hita Karana.
See,
And
see, I know. Isn't that great?
yeah, and
So, and the reason for that is that the houses, I mean, for the Balinese, what is most important is what you don't see, right?
yes,
Kind of
yes,
the spirit underneath it.
Skala Niskala, yeah.
And I love that. I was like, oh my God, if my houses could have that quality, they're beautiful, but that's not really what's important. What's important is something else underneath,
Yep.
right? And I love that. Yeah, it works for post-COVID, doesn't it? It's like let's really try and respect and embrace, that unseen quality. And then I think we're going to be on the right path.
Definitely. Okay, so the respect for the Balinese culture, which culminates in the respect for the land, and 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 treat Bali well when you arrive here to this island. Okay, that's pretty much it then. This is Alejandra and her amazing journey to Bali and her amazing story and some of her incredibly inspirational work. So thank you so much. And we're exactly at an hour, so this is perfect. Thank you so much,
Wow.
Alejandra, for sharing this beautiful story and your life's work and just being so intimate with us and giving us the facts and the stories. Really, really appreciate this. So, and I'm sure a lot of the future viewers of this video will too. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Jim. What a great idea.